Wake up, wake up. Let's get up. What the? Get up. Emergency. The sergeant is having a heart attack. I felt someone shaking me violently. Where the hell am I? What the hell? Quickly, get up. Someone's hands were dragging me from where I was lying. I think it's a bed, but I'm not sure. How did I get here? Easy, I'm getting up. What? What's the problem? They told me that you are a doctor. The sergeant has a heart attack. We need to go urgently. I sat down and discovered that I had no shoes. No matter, hands pulled me out of the tiny room I was in, and we walked down the hallway to the office. When I got there, I saw a woman in a police uniform bending over, trying to perform CPR on a large man, also in uniform. Damn it. Finally, I realized where I was, at the police station. Step aside. I knelt down and reached out to see if he had a pulse and was breathing. There was neither one nor the other. Jesus, do you have a defibrillator? I asked, looking at the woman who was trying to perform CPR. It seems there is. I'll bring. She ran away. I started doing chest compressions. He did 5 and then tried to breathe air into the person. I was still under the influence of the many pints of Guinness I had drunk in the pub the night before, but I quickly came to my senses. When I did the second round of chest compressions, she came back with an ED, an automated external defibrillator. Now they can be found quite often in public places. I just hoped that it had been checked recently and that the battery was still charged enough. Take out the electrodes and turn it on. I continued doing chest compressions. She handed me the electrodes and I quickly tore his shirt and lifted his t-shirt. I attached 2 electrodes to his chest and activated the ED to deliver a shock. Luckily, the machine was working and his voice told me to move away as he was about to shock me. I pressed the button and bang! His whole body twitched. Nothing. The first shock didn't work. Crap. I activated it again. Bang. Nothing. He did not restore normal heart rhythm. Crap. The third time was lucky. Bang. Beep. Normal sinus rhythm. The machine proudly announced. God bless. I exhaled. I sat on the floor and placed my hand on his chest to check for a heartbeat. I felt it. It was weak, but it was there. I shouted at the policewoman. Did you call an ambulance? She muttered something that I couldn't understand. Do it now, I shouted. She frantically looked for her mobile phone. Sitting on the floor, monitoring the man's heart rate and breathing, I looked around and realized that I was in a police station. How did I get here? Slowly, I remembered that I had gotten drunk in a pub in this town the night before. I looked out the window and saw that it was already morning. I looked at my watch. It was a little after 8 in the morning. I got sober in record time. A few minutes later, the policewoman returned and told me that the ambulance would be there in half an hour. She is coming from a town called Tralee. It turns out there is a hospital there. A quick guide to heart attacks. Defibrillation is effective only for certain heart rhythms, namely ventricular fibrillation or pulseless ventricular tachycardia, and not for asystole or pulseless electrical activity, which usually require treatment of underlying conditions to restore heart function. My own heart was beating fast. I guess it was a combination of panic and a lot of alcohol consumed the night before. My armpits were wet, and I really needed to go to the toilet. I called the policewoman. Come here, sit here, and put your hand on his chest. She sat down on the floor next to the unconscious sergeant and carefully placed her hand on his chest. I can feel his heart. Okay, stay here while I go to the toilet. Where is he? She pointed around the corner. I walked slowly to the toilet and dumped a gallon of processed Guinness. When I went out into the corridor, there were several observers. I looked at the incredibly young constable and asked him, "Where the hell am I?" His mouth was open and his eyes were a little wide, but he managed to say, "Garda station." Sorry, but maybe I had a little too much to drink yesterday. What city am I in, and how did I get here? You're in Castleroy. Me and Tommy from the pub brought you here last night when you passed out. Tommy said you were having fun until you fell. He smiled. Shit. You told everyone that you were running away from a woman of easy virtue. Crap. The young constable was now smiling at me. I heard the sound of an ambulance approaching. The guys told me you're from the United States. It's true. I winced. Unfortunately, yes. They said you were a doctor. He said it more as a question than as a statement. I nodded. Yes. The ambulance crew burst through the door, and they were led into an office where the sergeant lay on the floor. Paramedics performed routine checks on his heart and breathing. My work here is finished. I watched as he was loaded onto a stretcher and taken into an ambulance. When they left, presumably taking him to hospital in Tralee, I went to look for my boots and jacket. I found them on the floor next to the cot in the small room where I slept after the previous evening's celebrations. I found a policewoman, another constable, and asked her if I could leave. She looked at me and nodded wordlessly. I sat down on the bed, put on my boots, and turned the sleeves of my jacket right side out. She was rolled into a ball. My wallet and cell phone were in my pockets. I walked out to the main office and looked around. All four of them, two standing and two sitting, looked at me, without saying a word. I assumed that any minor offenses I might have committed in the pub were forgiven. I started to feel a little dizzy. Tell me, does anyone know where I'm staying? All four turned their heads in the same direction, as if they could see through 2 feet of stone walls of the police station. It turned out I was staying at a B&B just a couple of 100 yards from the police station. As I slowly walked there, I inhaled and exhaled deeply to fill my lungs with fresh air. I needed more sleep, a long hot shower, coffee and food, all in that order. I started by buying a large bottle of water from the store along the way and drank it all in one long gulp. When I walked into the B&B, I was greeted by the lovely lady who runs the place. I see you're back from having fun at the pub. Would you like some breakfast? I've got a nice breakfast. I'd really like some coffee, if you have any. I may have had a little too much last night. Oh, I heard. When you didn't come back after the pub closed, I called the guardie and asked about you. They said you'd had a little too much, so they put you to sleep in one of their beds. I calmed down and went to bed by myself. She smiled at me and went to prepare food. I smelled it and immediately I'm hungry. Her husband came in and smiled at me. You had a busy day on Sunday. I looked at him. Huh? He smiled. The guys at the station called and told me what you did for Sergeant O'Boyle. You saved his life. Mary, come here. We have a hero visiting. She screamed, "What are you saying, Bill?" She ran. Bill continued, "I say that our guest saved Jerry's life. He had a heart attack in the office, and this young man saved him from certain death. He is a doctor from the United States." I looked at them, tried to raise my hand. Actually, it was nothing. Nothing, damn it. Bill looked at his wife. He saved his life. By the way, Jerry had a heart attack waiting to happen. He looked at his wife and continued, he did CPR and used this electronic thing to get Jerry's heart going again. They both looked at me as if they expected me to retell the whole event. I just wanted coffee and breakfast. Now, I would really like coffee if you have it. She nodded and returned to the kitchen and soon appeared with a coffee pot and cup. I sat down and drank most of the coffee pot, along with a large plate of food. Eggs, ham, fried tomatoes, beans, and toast. It was delicious. I thought the sergeant had eaten too many of these Irish breakfasts over the years and was, as Bill said, a heart attack waiting to happen. After eating, I went to my room, took a long hot shower, and went to bed to clear my head. A dream, a wonderful dream. You want to know a little about me, don't you? My name is Aaron Brown. I'm 33 years old. I'm 5'11 inches, and I weigh 170 pounds. I have black hair and blue eyes. I am an orthopedic surgeon in Albany. I completed my surgical residency 2 years ago, and now worked at a university hospital. I am married to Madeline McDonald Brown, and we have no children. At least I haven't. Maddie is an elementary school teacher. She is 32 years old and also from the Albany area. Born and raised there. Her entire family is mostly still in the area. My family, not so much. My mother and father live in a coastal community in North Carolina. They retired last year to live in a warmer climate than central New York and play golf. My mother has a bit of arthritis and my father, although in good health, does not like winter, so they went to a warm place and enjoyed themselves there. I have a sister who lives in Connecticut with her husband and 2 children. She is 2 years older than me, Karen and Dave, and their boys Ryan and Ben. My parents spoil their grandchildren, and the boys love the beach when they come to visit them. So how did I end up in Ireland? This is what you really want to know. Fair question. It seems like I was venting my anger and talking too much about my problems in the pub last night, so the whole town was probably aware of my problem by now. Yes, I had a problem with the past tense. My problem was Madeline MacDonald Brown. Me and almost everyone else called her Maddie. I said some things in the pub that I probably shouldn't have said. That's what too much Guinness does to you. It's like a truth serum. After a few pints of this drink, you begin to pour out your soul and inner secrets to strangers. I left Albany when my marriage failed. It was quite sudden. This was about a month ago. I've been in Ireland for the last 3 weeks, give or take a few days. I lost count. I'm traveling around the island on a motorcycle that I bought second-hand from a dealer in Dublin. This is a Honda CRF 250. Basically, it is a motocross motorcycle with headlights, turn signals, and a speedometer. The bike was in good condition, and I bought side panniers to attach to it to carry the few things I had with me. There weren't many of them, I can tell you that. Most of my items left in Albany either went into the Salvation Army donation box or I threw them in the trash. I only kept the few things I absolutely needed, things I could pack in my car. I just left the rest. I talked to a friend about going on the road, and he gave me some great recommendations which I followed. He left his unfaithful wife a couple of years ago. I did the same. A month ago. Maddie comes from quite a large family. She has a sister and 2 brothers. Her sister Lana is a housewife with 1 child, and one of her brothers, Rob, is an aircraft mechanic. Her other brother, Barry, is a contractor. He builds houses for a living and is successful at it. Maddie's mother and father still live in Albany and are both retired. Her mother was also a teacher, and her father was a banker at a national bank. They both live well with good pensions and investments and enjoy traveling in their Georgetown motorhome. Back to me, doctors have a different life. Yes, we are paid well, but we work very long hours, and at the beginning of our careers, we have little free time for our personal lives. This was certainly a major factor in my situation. My colleague and friend, Dave Walters, suffered from the same thing I am facing now. He left his marriage. He left his unfaithful wife and found a new wife. Why is the rate of infidelity among doctors' spouses so high? I mean, this seems to be all too common among doctors. Their spouses all seem to have a need to walk to the left. Dave came out of this situation successfully. He has a new wife, a wonderful woman from Germany, and they now have 2 children. He met her in Africa, seems. He landed on his feet. I talked to him, and he told me that it was pure luck that he met her, but it was the luckiest and greatest day of his life, especially considering how his marriage had failed. I understood exactly what he was saying. As I said earlier, I don't have children. Maddie has 1 child, girl. She was born just a few weeks ago. Yes, you understood correctly. Her child is not mine, although we have been married for 4 years. The child is the result of her affair with another man. I was completely overwhelmed when the baby was born. You see, I'm white, Maddie is white, and her baby is clearly mixed race. So you can do the calculations yourself. Before you all accuse me of being racist, the child was just a messenger. The big moment of Maddie's affair being revealed happened in the delivery room. I sat in a chair next to my wife, holding her hand and helping her breathe as the baby began to come out into the world. The doctor asked me to cut the umbilical cord, and so when the baby came into the world, I was ready and waiting with a pair of scissors in one hand and Maddie's hand in the other. What a surprise this turned out to be. I will never forget the look on the doctor's face when she delivered the baby. Her eyes went wide, and she whipped her head around to look at me. I stood rooted to the spot, and the doctor quietly took the scissors from my hands and cut the umbilical cord. The doctor handed the child into the hands of the nurse, who was standing ready, and the baby was quickly carried away to clear his airway, put drops in his eyes, weigh and measure, and then wrap him in a warm blanket. Med's sisters were talking to each other and looking at Maddie and me. The doctor looked at me and then told the nurse to bring the baby to its mother. I looked at Maddie holding the baby. Maddie, Maddie, ah how, oh damn. It was like being punched in the stomach by Mike Tyson. I couldn't breathe. I blinked hundreds of times, thinking that my eyes were deceiving me. No, they work fine. I sat down on the chair next to Maddie's bed and stared at the floor. The doctor and nurses stood on the side of the delivery room, waiting to see what would happen. I waited until I could breathe again. I looked at Maddie, and she was looking at her baby. She didn't say a word, and I didn't say a word. I left the room. I never spoke to Maddie again. The next day, Maddie's parents called me several times to talk to me. Her mother left several voicemails on my cell phone. I talked to her once. I asked if she had seen the child. When she said what she had seen, she asked if I could forgive Maddie for her mistake and become a father to the child. My answer was, "Could you? I have not received a reply." I ended the conversation. I never spoke to her parents again. I made sure when I left the hospital that the information on the birth certificate was completed and stated that the father's name was unknown. I signed the form and then left. When I got home, I packed everything I needed and left. My old Subaru Outback was barely full. I took some clothes, my iPad, a few things from med school, and that was it. It only took me a few hours to sort through my things and load them into the car. I left the wedding ring on the kitchen table and left. My home that night was a hotel room. I checked into a place near the hospital where I worked. It was a different hospital than the one in which Maddie gave birth. I was stunned. Let's go back to the present day. The day after my shameful introduction to the town of Castleroy, my night in the pub while getting drunk and chatting about their problems, a series of people from the city visited me. Mrs. O'Boyle came to the B&B first to see me. She thanked me for saving the life of her useless husband, as she described him, but that was a different story. However, she offered to do whatever she could for me as a token of gratitude for saving Jerry's life. I thanked her and said that I would come and visit the sergeant in the hospital when he was allowed to have visitors, probably in a day or two. Then the mayor of Castleroy. She was a nice lady and brought with her a couple of local officials who were curious to meet the American doctor who stopped in their town and saved Sergeant O'Boyle from certain death. The mayor, a woman I estimated to be in her mid-50s and quite matronly kind, politics played a role. Photos were taken of her and me for some kind of official record, as well as a group photo of the mayor, her entourage, the owners of the B&B and me. The mayor quietly asked what brought me to this quiet corner of Ireland. I mentioned that my family emigrated from Ireland to the US during the potato famine in the 1800s. I told her how my great-grandfather made his way to New York, settling in Albany. He first came to Boston when he came to the United States, but later decided that there were better opportunities for him as a carpenter in Albany. I wanted to visit Ireland. I've never been to this country before. What I saw here told me I wasn't done with Ireland yet. The mayor asked if I planned to stay in the area for a long time. I mentioned that I was planning to ride my motorbike around the Ring of Kerry and then on to Killarney. She laughed and nodded to the other two city officials who were with her. She looked me straight in the eyes and began, "Dr. Brown, I would like to know, if I may, a little more about your practice in the United States. What kind of doctor are you?" "Well, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I do a lot of bone repair, joint repair, skeletal repair, things like that." I used my hands to point at myself. "I also do general surgery when other surgeons aren't available. I don't usually do thoracic surgery cardiac surgery or neurosurgery. Those are very specialized things." They all looked at each other. The B&B owners, Mary and Bill, nodded, and looked as if they were close medical collaborators and fully understood the complexities of surgery. Doctor, are you returning to work soon in Albany? No, I quit the hospital there. I'm taking a break. That's why I'm here in Ireland. More nods and concerned looks among those gathered. We were joined by a policewoman from the station the day before, the one who tried to perform CPR on Sergeant O'Boyle. I pointed to her and said, "This young lady did a great job giving CPR to Sergeant O'Boyle." I nodded towards the constable. I'm sure she could do without me. The constable blushed deeply and smiled. The others laughed and nodded at her. The mayor looked at me again and continued, "Dr. Brown, I really want to talk to you privately in my office, if that's okay. I have a question that I want to discuss with you." The tone in which she spoke indicated that this was indeed a meeting that I could not avoid, although I had no idea what she wanted to talk about. "Sure, when do you want me to come to your office?" "Tomorrow morning will be best. I'm sure you'll have a lot to do today, and I don't want to interrupt your sightseeing." With that, we all shook hands, and they left. The constable was the last one to leave, and she exchanged meaningful glances with me and the B&B owners. I had no idea what the hell was going on. Maybe it was something Irish, but I'll find out soon. Okay, Ireland is very different from what I'm used to back home in the US. The Emerald Isle, as it is so called because everything here is so green, especially in the summer. It was now September, and the tourists had mostly left, so there was much less traffic on the roads. This meant that getting around was much easier. I slowly drove around the country, stopping in small towns and staying there for a day or two, exploring the area. The people here are generally friendly and the hospitality is good. The food is delicious and the beer is cold. Guinness is like Irish mother's milk, national drink. I spent the day relaxing at the B&B and went for a walk in the afternoon. The sleep I received from the visits of Mrs. O'Boyle and the mayor and her people was much needed. I limited my beer intake to 1 pint that night with dinner. The next morning I got up early and after breakfast walked to the mayor's office. I was greeted by another lady who clearly knew I was supposed to come. "You must be that American doctor." She said it more as a statement than a question. I nodded. "The mayor will be here in a minute, so please have a seat." It seems I arrived before the mayor. I sat down and waited for her arrival. It only took a few minutes, during which I sat and thought about what I was going to do that day. I was deep in thought when I was interrupted. Dr. Brown, the mayor is here. Come in." "Thank you." I entered and was greeted by Her Honor and shown to the sofa. Coffee was ordered and the minutiae of the day were discussed. "Did you have a good evening, Dr. Brown?" "Ah, yes. Quiet evening. Dinner at the pub was very pleasant. I apologized to the pub owner for my behavior on Saturday night, if that's what we're talking about. I told him I was having personal problems and unfortunately drank too much beer and then became noisy and passed out. He was very generous and even bought me dinner and a pint for my efforts on behalf of the sergeant, O'Boyle. She nodded at me, and I continued to say what I thought she wanted to hear. "I'm leaving later today, if that's your concern." "Oh, that's not what I asked you to come here to talk about." "Okay, what did she want?" "So, I'm a little confused now. If you don't care about me leaving your lovely town, what do you want to talk about?" "Well, Dr. Brown, I have a problem that I need your help with." I looked at her with the most puzzled expression on my face. "How can I help Castleroy?" "Well, Dr. Brown, you are a doctor who is not currently under contract in America, and Castleroy is a town that needs a doctor, at least for a few weeks, until the government in Dublin deigns to send a replacement for Dr. Kennedy, who has retired and gone to South Africa." "What? You want what? You want to hire me to be your local doctor?" "Yes, that's basically the proposal. We desperately need a doctor in the area. The nearest doctor is in Tralee, almost an hour away, and we have a lot of good people who would be eternally grateful if you could help us and stay for a few weeks. The health department in Dublin says they will send a replacement, but it may take a while, So as you can see, in the interim, we need your help. Jesus, sorry, I'm not sure I'm your person, or for that matter, your doctor. I'm a surgeon, and if I understand correctly, you need a general practitioner. Dr. Brown, right now, I will accept anyone. You, sir, are the messenger we have been waiting for. I don't know. Please think about it, but not for too long. We need you. Mary Johnson, Mayor of Castleroy. I've spent hours on the phone talking to the geniuses in Dublin who prescribe doctors all over the country, and they tell me it could be a year or more before we see a new doctor in our area. Dr. Kennedy was over 80 and beginning to become very forgetful. His daughter took him to South Africa to live with her and her husband. They believe that it is not far from the nursing home, so I called, checking the American gift that had fallen on our heads. It's amazing what Garda can find when they're motivated enough. It only took one night to obtain a brief dossier on Dr. Brown. I know that he graduated from medical school in New York State in the top third of his class, and that he is a board-certified surgeon. I also know a little about his personal life and can sympathize with his wife's disgusting behavior. No wonder he got drunk in the pub. I need to offer him some incentive to convince him to stay with us for a few months. I have a plan. I also have emergency authorization from the Department of Health for Dr. Aaron Brown to practice in Ireland. Get this, you government, whoever you are. Constable Amelia Kelly, Castleroy, Garda. I saw Dr. Brown coming out of the mayor's office and walked towards him. I was officially off duty, so I was out of shape. I put on my best casual outfit, a white blouse, my tightest jeans, and high-heeled boots. My hair was down today, and I put on a little makeup. Yes, I tried to look as attractive as possible this morning. I'm only 27 years old, I'm about 5 ft 8 inches tall, and I weigh just over 9 stone. I'm a runner and in great shape, to be honest. Dr. Brown, I screamed from afar. He turned his head to see where his name was being called from. I went to him. Dr. Brown, good morning. It's a pleasure to meet you here this morning. I extended my hand. We were not properly represented. I'm Amelia Kelly. I am the constable who helped you when you rescued Sergeant O'Boyle. Aaron. Oh my God, the Garda uniform hides people perfectly. I would not have recognized this woman if she had not told me who she was and where she worked. I have to admit that the first time I met her was marked by some degree of foggy chaos at the police station, and then when she later showed up at the B&B, she was in uniform. At that time, my attention was occupied by the mayor and her people. And I admit, I was a little hungover. That's putting it mildly. I was very hungover. This woman, Amelia, is amazing. Her hair is red and falls to her shoulders, and her face is a beautiful ruddy hue, and her figure is perfect. Wow, how did I not notice her before? I was probably distracted. Amelia Kelly is as beautiful as a runway model. She's as beautiful as a Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. What the hell is she doing being a cop? Amelia Kelly. Dr. Brown looked much better than the last time I saw him. I've seen a lot of men drunk and going to jail for the night and then going home the next day. They all have the same unkempt appearance and usually experience a certain degree of embarrassment. But Dr. Brown very quickly recovered from the effects of intoxication when he was needed to help Sergeant O'Boyle. No, Dr. Brown was fully involved and knew what to do. I tried to help, but I forgot about that electronic defibrillator, and that would probably mean that the sergeant would die. Indeed, it was a good thing for the sergeant that Dr. Brown had drunk too much beer in the pub last night. He is an attractive man. The mayor commissioned us to do research on him, and I know that he left his wife in America. She was dating another man and apparently became pregnant and gave birth to his child. Dr. Brown thought the baby was his until it was born, and then the truth emerged, so they say. The mayor let me in on her grand plan, and I was the one who called Dublin and got a quick report on Dr. Brown. So I know a little more about him than he realizes. Aaron. My God, this woman, I don't know what to say. She is probably the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. We all have our own ideas about beauty. Amelia Kelly defines beauty for me. I couldn't look away. I shook my head to make sure my eyes were working correctly. They worked. So, Dr. Brown, are you going to another part of Ireland today? My brain had a lot of things it wanted to say, but it didn't connect well with my vocal cords and mouth, so the end result was a mumbled. Oh well, I'm not sure about my plan yet. Why did I start sweating? I'll probably go and see Sergeant O'Boyle in hospital and then plan to go around the Ring of Kerry. They say it'll be worth it. She smiled at me. Oh, I was just about to go to Tralee to visit Jerry. Would you like to come with me? How could I refuse? Well, I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. It's not a problem at all. I'd love to have company for the trip. We went to her car. She drives a VW Golf. I think driving on the left side of the road is a little weird, but when you're on a motorcycle, somehow it's not as creepy. But that's just my opinion. The drive to Tralee only took about 45 minutes, but I have no idea what we passed along the way. I looked at Amelia. I talked to her, trying to find out as much as possible about her. I tried not to look like an idiot by stumbling over my words. It seems she grew up in Castleroy and her father is one of the local lawyers. Her mother was a housewife and raised her and two brothers. Her family lived a few miles outside the city, and she lives in an apartment in the city, not far from the police station. She is 27 years old and plans to go to law school, but first wanted to gain experience with the law as a police officer. I also found out that she is not married and does not have a boyfriend. She was engaged for a short time to a guy who was a semi-professional footballer, but he got an offer to play for a team in Spain and it all ended. That, and he seemed to find Spanish women very attractive. We visited Sergeant O'Boyle and chatted with him for a few minutes. He learned from his wife and other visitors that I had heroically saved him from the clutches of death. He vowed to give up fried food and beer, lose 4 stone, and get fit. Somehow he was sure that by next year he would be running half marathons. Looking at him, I wasn't so sure. Let's see if he can do it. Amelia told me after we left that an inspector from Killarney had come and told Jerry that he needed to lose weight or he would be forced into early retirement. Jerry needs money for retirement, so he really has no choice but to get in shape. His wife will whip him and work him until he gives up. Now, Tralee isn't a very big place, but it has 2 hospitals, so it's a big city in Ireland. A short tutorial on Tralee. It is a town of about 25,000 people, both urban and rural, in County Kerry on the Dingle Peninsula. There is a port and a small airport and 2 hospitals. Dublin is about 3 hours' drive to the east, and Killarney and Limerick to the south are about an hour or a little more. I offered to buy us lunch in exchange for her giving me a walking tour of the city. Amelia said she knew him well, as her father was often here in court on business. She studied at the University of Trinity College, Dublin, House of the Book of Kells. Her bachelor's degree is in political science, and she specialized in EU defense policy and international relations. Over lunch, I thought I would get the usual questions. What is an American doing traveling around Ireland on a motorcycle? Where did I grow up? What about my family? Where did I study? We ate, I talked. She avoided the obvious question. What about your wife? Did you say in the pub when you were drunk that you had a wife? I also avoided this topic. I had a great time with Amelia, and I never got into Kerry's ring. When we got back to Castleroy, she dropped me off at the B&B, and I thanked her for the ride and tour of Tralee. I knew that as long as I stayed in town, I would have the opportunity to see more of Constable Amelia Kelly, and it was something that could be very nice to do. 2 days later, Ring of Kerry tour. My God, this area is beautiful. It was a fantastic day. I got up early, grabbed a bite to eat, and got on the bike to start my ride around the Ring of Kerry. I was making my way to Killorglin and then to Killarney and stopped there for gas and coffee. The city is very interesting, and my stop included a nice pastry and coffee. I decided to drive around the loop clockwise to avoid getting stuck behind the giant tourist buses that drive counterclockwise. Bill at B&B gave me this little tip. My day was fantastic, and included several stops to take in the beauty of the land and sea. I tried not to think about anything other than what I was doing at the moment. I focused on the here and now and nothing else. Ireland is so beautiful. Of course, not a single day in Ireland goes by without rain. And he went. The sky opened up on the way back, and the rain poured down in buckets. I stopped under a tree to wait. I was sitting sideways on the seat of my motorcycle, sipping my soda, when I heard a huge crash to my left. Crap. Smoke rose from the scene of the accident. Damn it. I threw the bottle into the ditch. Sorry, Ireland, put on my helmet and jumped on the bike, started the engine, and, with a quick glance over my right shoulder, headed towards the scene of the accident. It was only about 400 meters, and when I got there, I saw that the minibus and the car had collided head-on. Oh shit, I thought one of them had slipped on the water and crossed the center line of the road. The roads here are narrow, so there is little room for error. The car was heavily damaged. Smoke was coming from the engine compartment. I quickly assessed the situation and decided that whoever was in the car needed to be pulled out before a full-blown fire broke out. The car doors were damaged, and it was almost impossible to open the driver's door. The back door of the car opened during the accident, so I climbed inside and saw that the man driving was injured. There was a woman in the passenger seat, and she was unconscious, or dead. I couldn't tell yet. I reached out to check her pulse and found it. He also had a pulse. By that time, other cars had already stopped and people were offering their help. I shouted to one of them to call 999 and tell them to send 4 ambulances. I knew I would need 2 passenger cars, but wasn't sure about the minibus. I didn't want to move people around in the car without special boards and neck collars to stabilize them before trying to move them. But the smoke from the front of the car was the deciding factor. They couldn't burn just to avoid further injury when moving. One man ran up with a fire extinguisher and began spraying it on the engine. This seemed to remove the immediate threat. I told the others not to move the victims for now. When I got to the minibus, the driver was in the worst condition. I thought the safety glass was supposed to prevent this from happening. There were 4 other people on the minibus, all elderly tourists who were on a tour of the Ring of Kerry. There was a man and his wife, about 80 years old, and her 2 sisters, also about the same age. They were all in a state of shock and asked what they should do. I quickly examined everyone to determine their injuries. Luckily, everyone was wearing their seat belts. One of the women, it seemed to me, had a broken collarbone from a seat belt. Older women tend to have brittle bones due to calcium loss as they age, so her injury didn't surprise me. She was in obvious pain but showed courage, saying she was fine and asking her brother-in-law to be checked. He had cancer several years ago, and she was worried about him. I tried to joke about the weather in Ireland, and they all became talkative, which told me they were in relatively good health. Tomorrow, they will be sick from a combination of the effects of the accident and stress. I returned to the car, and some of the people who had stopped pulled out blankets and towels to keep the man and woman in the car warm. I was worried about internal injuries. They are difficult to see without a CT or MRI. The man appeared to have a compound fracture of his right leg and needed to be immobilized. I placed a tourniquet on his thigh to reduce blood loss. I quickly assessed their injuries and decided that we needed to get them out of the car if possible. 4 of us slowly removed them from the car and laid them on the road. I worked a little more and then returned to check on the minibus passengers. It seemed like it took forever for the ambulances to arrive. Of course, they had to come from Tralee, and there were only 2 available. I used the first aid kit from the minibus to begin bandaging the most serious cuts on the driver, a gentleman named Fergus. He was a cheerful man in his 60s and said he was a retired accountant who worked as a tour bus driver a couple of days a week to get out of the house and not bother his wife. I heard ambulance sirens in the distance. Fortunately, no one has died yet. It's always good. I waited for all 7 people to be taken to A&E in Tralee. The paramedics knew what to do, but I planned to follow the ambulances into town and make sure the doctors on duty received a report of our first aid. One of the paramedics looked at me and commented, You're the American doctor who saved the police sergeant from Castleroy, aren't you? I nodded to her. You're always lucky to find yourself in situations like this. It's good that you were there on Sunday. We chatted for a few minutes, and I told her that I was on a tour of the Ring of Kerry and was returning to Castleroy when the accident happened. I was at the hospital for about an hour, spoke to the doctor on duty, checked on everyone injured in the accident, wished them a speedy recovery, and got on the bike to return to Castleroy. It was dark when I got to the B&B. There was a van parked in front of the house. I took off my helmet and headed towards the front door. I was immediately greeted by Bill and Mary. "Oh, you're back, Dr. Brown." "Hi, Bill, Mary. Yeah, I'm a little late. I'm going to get cleaned up and find something to eat at one of the restaurants. Is there any place around here that serves anything other than fried food?" "Well, yes, there is an Italian restaurant about a kilometer from here, not far from the market. But there were people from the news office in Killarney looking for you a few minutes ago." "What did they want? Did they say?" "They said you were involved in an accident." "No, I was near a car accident and stopped to help, that's all." "Well, they seem to think that you literally saved 7 lives on your own." Bill and Mary looked at me with wide eyes and smiles. "I helped administer first aid, that's all. They're in hospital in Tralee, and they're being treated there." Bill pointed with his thumb. "The reporters at the pub are waiting for you to return. They want to interview you." Bill's excitement was contagious. He grabbed his hat and ran out the door. Mary looked at me. "He told them he would call you when you get back. They really want to talk to you." Crap. This is not what I want right now. I just want to eat dinner, maybe have a glass of wine with my meal, take a hot shower, and sleep. I smiled at Mary. "I'm heading to the pub." I walked out the door. I lied to Mary a little. I wasn't going to the pub. I went the other way. A little misinformation might give me time to get to a restaurant and eat before I'm attacked by the journalists, whoever they are. I was partially successful. I managed to get food before they found me. It looks like Bill is leading the search party. James Little Attorney, Albany, New York. I needed to talk to my client. Last I heard, he was somewhere in Ireland, but I had his phone number. It was a strange number starting with +353 and then a bunch of other numbers. Well, I need to tell Aaron the news and find out what he wants to do. After I figured out his number. 1 beep, 2 beeps, 3 beeps. "Hello." "Damn it, Aaron, where are you, dude?" "In Ireland, man." "Where in Ireland?" "It's a small town in the southwest, Castleroy, a very small place on the coast." "What happened?" "Well, I have news. It's not what you want to hear. Maddie isn't cooperating in the divorce. She says she wants you to come home. She says if you meet the baby, you'll forget about your pain, and everything will be fine. She can go to hell, that's what she can do. Tell her to find her boyfriend and let him move in with her and father her baby. It won't be me, damn." I laughed a little. "Yeah, that's not going to happen on his end. I hired an investigator to find out who the baby's father is, and it's the gym teacher at the high school next to where Maddie teaches. He's also the soccer coach, a guy named... I don't care what his name is. Dude, the interesting thing is that he is married and has 2 children. He is not able to do anything other than going to work every day and continuing to make money to support all these people and pay the mortgage. Maddie has little hope that he will support her and her baby. So what am I supposed to do about this? I'm not going to change my mind and become a naive husband and father. I'm not going back to this mess. Well, she wants child support and maintenance for herself. She must be joking. No. What are my chances of paying? It's a big unknown at the moment. Establishing paternity shouldn't be a problem, but the courts often don't pay attention to it. Any child born within the marriage is considered yours unless we apply to the court to have you removed as the parent. Do it. Go to court and do just that. When the baby was born, I filled out the birth certificate with the father listed as unknown. Make sure she doesn't change it. It will be done. Look, I'm not recommending you go home just yet. It will only give her lawyer a chance to drag us to court and get an immediate child support order. Don't worry about it. I'm staying here, at least for a while. Ireland is a beautiful country, Jim. You should take a vacation and come here. Try the beer, eat the food, and look at the women. Thanks, but I have clients who don't know how to wipe themselves without me. Maybe next year. See you, dude. See you. Erin, stupid woman. She thinks I'll just obey and do what she wants. This won't happen. She did it. She will live with it. I refuse to be married to a woman who disrespects me so much that she gets pregnant by another man, and then has the audacity to think I'll say, "No problem, honey, I don't care if you slept with some guy and gave birth to him." Child. No, no way, Mayor of Castleroy. Here he is. I didn't have to wait long. Dr. Brown, Dr. Brown. Ah, Madam Mayor, good morning. Dr. Brown, you are a true hero. Oh, how's that? Well, you saved 7 people in that terrible car accident. Don't be modest, doctor. You're all over the news this morning. It wasn't that bad. 3 of them got away on their own. 1 broke her collarbone, nothing serious. 1 got mostly cuts. He'll heal. The occupants of the car were the most seriously injured, but they'll recover too. No one died. That's the most important thing. Now I need a huge glass of coffee, and I'm going to continue exploring this beautiful country. Have you thought about my proposal yet? I've spoken to Dublin again, and they are willing to give you a temporary license to practice for a year in Ireland. Castleroy needs you, doctor. The region needs you. Please stay with us and help us. Meyer, I'm going to go and see a little more of this region, and when I return, I'll let you know my decision. How do you like that? I guess that's fair. But please think about what a difference you will make to the people here. We're a small town, but we're a good town, and we really need you right now. Dr. Aaron Brown nodded and turned to leave. I was hoping that his personal problems in Albany would be what might convince him to stay with us for a while. Even if he's only here for 6 months, it might give Dublin time to do its job and find us a doctor. Let's see. Aaron. I started the motorcycle and went for a ride. I went to Killarney. I wanted to find a restaurant and think about what I wanted. After talking with Jim, I was pretty sure of one thing. Going back to Maddie won't be part of my plan. Every day that I spend abroad is a day that she will have to think about what she did. But on the other hand, maybe she doesn't care. This is also possible. All I knew for sure was that I wasn't going back to her. Lunch was good, and the trip was uneventful. On the way back to Castleroy, my phone started ringing and vibrating. I stopped and looked at what was so urgent. There was a message from Jim. "I'm sending you a link to a TV news story. You're a hero." I listened to his message. "Dude, what the hell? You saved a lot of lives in Ireland. You're all over the news here. I'll send you a link to the video. Call me. See you later." There was another voicemail, this time from Amelia. "Aaron, I know you're traveling today, but call me when you get back." I returned to Castleroy and went to my room at the B&B. Mary met me on the way and offered to make tea if I needed a glass. I thanked her but declined the offer. I took a shower and changed into a clean shirt and trousers. I went to the mayor's office and asked to see her. The secretary smiled at me when she informed the mayor of my arrival. "So, Dr. Brown, you've had time to think about our proposal. What's your solution?" "I have decided to stay in Castleroy and help you with the doctor shortage." The woman hugged me and almost strangled me right there. "Aaron, you won't regret this. I promise." She stopped calling me doctor, so it was clear that I was now one of them. "Not so fast, Mayor. I have conditions." Her expression changed a little as she realized that she wasn't completely in control of this situation. "And what are these conditions, Aaron?" "Okay, nothing too complicated." I raised my hands. I listed my requirements, and she took notes, nodding at everything. When I finished, I asked, "So, do you still want me?" "Oh yes, everything on this list is easy to achieve. Most of what you want is already available. You just need to start practicing medicine." Amelia. Good news travels fast in small towns, bad news travels even faster. The mayor called and said that Aaron had agreed to stay on for a while and replace Dr. Kennedy. Word of it will spread like wildfire within a day or two, and there will be a line at the office to see it. All of Dr. Kennedy's patient records are still in his office. The nurse retired when he left, so we put a lock on the building to make sure nothing went missing. The mayor has found a secretary to work for Erin, a young girl who has just graduated from high school and is looking for a job. A local nurse practitioner will also be available to assist. She came for the most urgent cases, but she had a lot of work throughout the region and was here half a day a week at most. Now, with Erin, she can come more often. Nurse practitioner Laura Tompkins. Laura is about 35 years old and divorced. She has a 4-year-old daughter. Her husband, now ex-husband, is a manager for a shipping company operating in Dublin. Will has a soft spot for women, especially when his wife is not around. This created problems. She moved out of their home in Dublin and took a job in Killarney. She lives near Castleroy. Laura is a beautiful woman, blonde and tall. She's a little plumper than me, but still very attractive. I'll have to keep an eye on her and claim my rights if she gets too close. Aaron. Oh my God, this office smells. Musty. It needs to be well ventilated and probably thoroughly cleaned. If I find dead cockroaches and mouse poop, well, I guess that can be cleaned up. Secretary, Nicole, brand new, and this is her first real job since leaving school. She still has braces on her teeth. Her mother came into the office to bring lunch. Her mother really wanted to meet me and smiled a lot. Mom is about 40 years old, and I noticed that she dressed up a little for the occasion. The first step was to clean and organize the office. I looked around at what was there and made a list of things I needed. I had a phone number to arrange delivery, and we accessed Department of Health Resources through the computer. I didn't even have a stethoscope. I did not have the opportunity to write prescriptions. Here they are called scripts for patients. I also needed to get into the system to refer patients for tests and specialists. It will take a few days of preparation before I can start seeing patients. Yes, that's exactly what I thought. People in the area had a very different opinion, and it all began. "Dr. Brown, Dr. Brown," Nicole screamed with all her might. "What? You need to come out here urgently." "Why?" "Just get out, quickly." "Okay, okay." I went out to the reception area. There was a man with his hand wrapped in a towel, and there was a woman with him. He looked pale, as if he was about to pass out. "Begin." The woman began to speak, handing me a plastic bag. I looked at it and saw that there was a finger in it. Oh shit, he cut off his finger in the tractor engine. I told him to be careful, but he never listens to me. My first real patient in Ireland. "Come to the examination room." I looked at Nicole, ring the hospital in Tralee, and tell them we need them to try and reattach this man's finger. Then call an ambulance as soon as possible. Apart from basic medical supplies, I had few tools for treatment. I sat him on a chair and asked him to put his hand on the table. Slowly, I turned his arm around to see the actual damage. There were 2 fingers missing. "Did you find his other finger?" I asked his wife. She winced. "No, it was the only one I could find." She was holding the bag with her finger. "Okay, I need to stabilize this wound and try to get the doctor at the hospital in Tralee to reattach this finger." My first priority was to reduce blood loss and stabilize his wound until the ambulance arrived. An hour later, my patient was on his way to the hospital. I was able to reduce blood loss and stabilize his condition. He turned very pale and began to lose consciousness when I unwrapped his hand. I would probably do the same thing if it were my hand. It was the pinky and ring finger on the left hand, and it looked like there was a ring finger in the sandwich bag. I packed the fingers in ice and sent them to the hospital. So this was my first patient. My secretary took his name from his wife and even offered his national health card. It slipped from my mind. At home, my job was in the operating room and helping people. I didn't worry about health insurance. The administrative staff handled that. Later that day, local nurse practitioner Laura Tompkins came into the office. She is a very busy woman and did not stay long. She gave me her business card, we chatted a bit, and she left to pick up her daughter. Nicole told me that she is a single mother and lives in the area. I remembered this for the future. I needed a place to live. The B&B was cute, but offered little in the way of real privacy from the prying eyes of Mary and Bill, and frankly, I wanted my own space. I didn't need much. A small studio apartment was all I needed, and I wanted a decent kitchen so I could cook for myself. I needed a place to park my motorcycle and possibly store a bike if I bought one later. It needs to be furnished as this is temporary housing, and I don't want to have to get rid of a lot of stuff when it's time to move on, probably back to the US. I contacted a real estate agent and started searching. The search took about an hour. Josephine Landers was the agent. She is a pleasant lady about 40 years old and a little plump, but not in an unattractive sense. She knew I needed a seat and had already found one for me. What I said before about small towns, any news spreads very quickly. Apartment, they call them flats, was about 50 square meters, approximately 500 feet, and had everything I wanted. My name was already on the door, Dr. Aaron Brown, Maryland. Now that's confidence. Josephine proudly showed me around the apartment and pointed out all the amenities I might need during my stay in the city. There were many windows and a beautiful view of the fields that stretched to the water. There was even a balcony for morning coffee or evening drinks. She thought about everything. Bed linen and towels are easy to find. We have stores right here in town that can supply everything you need, and I warned them to be prepared. All they need to know is what color you prefer. The woman really thought about everything. This town really wanted a doctor. I looked at her with a grin. Looks like you've thought of everything. She smiled back, just trying to be helpful to my client. Later, I thanked Mary and Bill for taking good care of me and moved my things from the B&B to the apartment. When I walked inside, I said to no one but the walls, "I'm home." Well, this will be home, at least for a while. I walked around the shops and picked out bed linen, a couple of pillows and 2 towels, and took them back to the apartment. I ran them through the washing machine and then made the bed. Next is food. I walked a couple of blocks to the market and purchased the necessary supplies, including beer and wine. I don't know why I bought wine. I don't drink a lot of it, usually only in the company of women and when it is appropriate for what I am eating or doing. But I bought a bottle of white wine. All this went into the refrigerator, but the wine will not stay there for long. There was a knock on the door. Amelia. Josephine entered the station and said, "Everything is ready. Here is the address." She handed me a card with the address of the apartment Aaron rented. I put it in my pocket and headed home after my shift to freshen up and change into more suitable clothes. A shower washed away the day's fatigue. Then I put on some tight jeans and a sleeveless blouse, added a little eye makeup, and was ready to go. I called a Chinese takeout restaurant and ordered food. I picked it up and went to the address Josephine gave me. I rang the doorbell. A couple of minutes later I heard, "Hi, how can I help you?" I laughed. "Police, open up." "What the?" Then the door buzzed and I entered. I heard the door open on the second floor. I went up the stairs. "We heard that someone might have broken in, so I came to check." He smiled. "Do you always bring food for trespassers?" "Only for those I like." Aaron. I woke up in an unfamiliar bed, realizing that I was in my new temporary apartment, a flat. I also realized that I am not alone. I looked at my phone to check the time. It's time to get up. I woke up my bed companion with a slight push. "Amelia, it's time to get up." She yawned. "What time is it?" 6:39. I need to wash up and show up at my new workplace. I went to the bathroom emptied my bladder, and turned on the shower. The water took a few moments to warm up. I jumped into the shower, and a minute later, Amelia joined me. That's how it all started. Jane's little lawyer. Why can't people put two and two together and get something close to four? Because they don't want it, that's why. Aaron's wife, Madeline, refuses to understand that Aaron wants nothing more to do with her. Her affair with a teacher football coach was the end of their marriage, doubly so when she gave birth to this guy's child. How difficult is it to understand? But she refuses to accept that Aaron is done with her. That's it, kaput. I filed the documents with the court and sent copies to her. I told her to give them to her lawyer and we'll set up a meeting to work out the details. It was a simple divorce, but she intends to turn it into a long process. This will only increase her attorney fees. The fact that Aaron left the country also shows intent to the court. The New York Supreme Court is hearing divorce cases, and I have a hearing scheduled for next week. For the court, this is routine. I have DNA evidence and photographs of my client to prove the child is not his. I want to get a court order obliging the real father to provide a DNA sample and thereby shift the child support issue to him. Madeline told her lawyer she wanted marriage counseling. This is easy to dispute. My client went abroad to take a new job. In addition, family counseling must be agreed upon by both parties. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time and money. No, that's not an option. Madeline also wanted to know where Aaron was and how to contact him. I was not authorized to give this information and told her so. Her lawyer tried to intimidate me, saying that he would file a motion in court to force me to give up this information. I don't think she was paying attention in law school when this was discussed, but it's part of the attorney-client privilege. Spirit. Madeline even sat in front of my office, waiting to meet me. She was confident that Aaron would be okay being the father of her daughter. She even brought the child with her. I looked at the child. She's normal. All children look the same to me, except that this child is not Aaron's. If you have eyes, you will understand this. I thought I would bring the child to court so the judge could look at him. This will immediately put everything in its place. I told my secretary not to let her in anymore, unless she wants me to represent her on another matter, and not until this case is closed. Of course, the whole reason she wants Aaron to come back and continue being a husband has to do with money. Her child's father, a teacher soccer coach, is married with 2 children and is not rich. He lives on a teacher's salary, and his wife works as a manager in a small car dealership. It pays well, but again, no one gets rich there. Between the mortgage, monthly bills, food, and the cost of running 2 cars, they work toward his retirement. Her job does not include a pension plan. Luckily, his job includes health insurance. No, Madeline wants Aaron's income. That's all. She won't get it. The reality is that Aaron walked away from everything they had. She hasn't realized this yet. She has a house and all its contents and her car. She can sell it all if she wants and move into an apartment or condominium. Her choice. There is a mortgage on the house, but Aaron has already given up his interest in the house. When the house is sold, there will be enough money left over for a good down payment on a modest 2-bedroom condominium. Maybe. It's all about money. End of discussion. Laura Tompkins, nurse practitioner. I plan to stop by and visit the American doctor who was persuaded by the mayor of Castleroy to stay on for a while to replace Dr. Kennedy when he retired. His retirement was the right decision. He has long since exceeded his limits. I often corrected his mistakes, but I couldn't always do it. After all, he could prescribe the wrong medicine and seriously harm or kill a patient, so his retirement was good news. I met a new doctor, Aaron Brown, I think. He's easy on the eyes, this guy, and the surgeon too. The local rumor mill quickly spread information about him and his almost ex-wife. The mayor conducted a security check to find out who he was and what he was like. Medical staff in Dublin contacted the Americans, and they reported his medical training and experience. Unencumbered women in the area will line up to see him and check him out. They will have many minor ailments that require being taken to the doctor for an examination. Yes. Between work and my daughter, I have little time to communicate, but I can find time to stop by his office and talk to him about health care issues for my patients. This will give me a chance to be alone with him. I'll have to dress better that day. Aaron. My secretary is exhausted answering calls and talking to people who want to come and see the doctor. They are waiting outside the office when I arrive in the morning. I noticed that the majority of them were women. Maybe it would be better for them to see a female doctor. Nurse practitioner Laura Tompkins might be the best choice for many of them, especially for more routine issues. I'll call her and ask her to come by when she has time, and we can discuss what she's doing and how we can work together more effectively. Laura Tompkins, nurse practitioner. My phone is ringing. I drove to the next patient and pressed the button on the steering wheel to answer. Hello. Hi, is this Laura Tompkins? Yes, it's me who's talking. Good morning, I'm Aaron Brown, temporary doctor in Castleroy. Dr. Brown, what can I do for you? I thought I knew what he could do for me. I was wondering if we could meet to discuss the medical needs in the area. I'm just a temporary doctor for a few months until they send a permanent one, but I'm worried that I don't know how things are usually done here. I'm alone and I need help. It would be helpful if we talked. When would you like to do this? Well, when you have time. I'll make time. This is really important to me. I thought for a moment, I'm on my way to see a patient now, but I'll call you back later and we can find a time that works for both of us, if that works for you. That would be great. Call me and let me know what would work. Like I said, I really need your help. I started to think through a plan in my head. It will take a little time, but I have time, and who knows, maybe Aaron Brown has it too. Let's see. Aaron, 2 days later. I received a call from Laura Tompkins, a local nurse practitioner, and she invited me to dinner at her home. Who am I to refuse home-cooked food? I went. It was a short ride to her house. I decided to take a bottle of wine. I took two, one red and one white. I didn't know what kind she preferred or if she even drank wine. Irish women all seem to love wine. The woman at the store where I bought it made recommendations, and I followed them. I knocked on the door, and a little girl opened it. I said it for 3 or 4 years. She looked at me with an expression of curiosity and surprise. She turned her head and shouted, "Mommy, this American has come." I heard movement heading to the door. "Dr. Brown, please come in." The baby stood to the side and slightly behind her mother. The big one greeted me with a smile and a gesture to enter the house. She is gorgeous. Laura Tompkins, I think in her early 30s, about 5 feet 9 inches tall, very attractive, long dark hair, and if I'm not mistaken, no more than 135 pounds. Irish women constantly surprise me. I stood there like a deer in headlights until I remembered that I had brought wine, and it was in a bag in my left hand. Where are my manners? I looked down at the baby and extended my hand. "Hi, I'm Aaron. Who are you?" Her expression brightened a little. "I'm Matilda. I'm 4 years old, and my favorite book is Winnie the Pooh." "Well, Matilda, nice to meet you and learn about Winnie the Pooh. Tigger is my personal favorite." I handed the wine to Laura Tompkins and waited to be shown to the kitchen or dining room. "I don't know if you like wine, so Mrs. Billings at the store recommended both of these wines. If you don't like it, I'll be happy to replace it with another." Laura smiled. "Mrs. Billings knows a lot about wine. She sometimes drinks a little too much of it. But that's good. You could open the white and pour us both a glass if you like wine. If you don't, I have beer. The wine will be just right." I busied myself with the corkscrew and the 2 glasses that were handed to me. I was under Matilda's close supervision. I turned to her. "Are you going to drink wine?" Laura looked at me and smiled. "No, you're stupid. Children don't drink wine. We drink juice. I'll drink orange juice, please." "Okay, it's good to know when I meet other kids. I won't offer them wine." I tried not to laugh. She's very sweet. Laura smiled the entire time she was preparing our dinner. I offered to help, but was turned down in favor of being entertained by Matilda. She was quite insistent that I should pay attention to her. She went to her room and came back with a coloring book and crayons. I was politely asked to help color the animals on the farm. When I wanted to color the pig with red crayon, I was sternly told that pigs are not red, they are beige, like this. Dinner was beef stew with fresh rolls. We drank some wine, and then Matilda was ordered to put on her pajamas and brush her teeth. She came back a few minutes later and said I would read her a bedtime story. Winnie the Pooh. I looked at her mother, and she just looked at me and told Matilda to bring a book, and we would read together in the living room. All this time, while I was reading to Matilda, Laura was cleaning the kitchen and putting leftover food in the refrigerator. I watched her out of the corner of my eye, thinking that this is what a real family looks like. This is what real life looks like. Laura. Erin was captured by my daughter. She's small, but very effective at conquering the biggest of them all. One person she couldn't conquer was her father. I don't often invite men to my home, especially for dinner with me and my daughter. This one was different. I had a pretty good idea about him. I had information from several sources and, of course, about everything he did when he appeared on our shores. Running away from his unfaithful wife made him interesting. He knew the same pain that I felt. I packed up Matilda and left her father in Dublin. I couldn't tolerate his disrespect. I realized that he did not want to have a daughter and did not want responsibility for the family. It's his loss. I also knew that I had a rival, Amelia Kelly. She knew how to get along with men. She was a little younger and prettier than me. But in a fair fight, I had help. And I knew what Dr. Aaron Brown wanted. The look on his face as he read to Matilda spoke volumes. Aaron. Dinner with Laura was wonderful. Meeting Matilda was an interesting experience. I returned to my apartment around midnight, took a shower, and went to bed. If the past few days have been any indication, tomorrow will be busy. As soon as I lay down, my cell phone rang. The number was from the USA, but was displayed as unknown. I could have ignored it, but I thought it might be from Mom or Dad. I answered. Hello. Aaron, is that you? I immediately realized who it was and didn't want to talk to her. Maddie, if you have something to tell me, say it through Jimmy. I do not want to talk to you. Aaron, please don't hang up. Please let me talk to you. Maddie, we have nothing to talk about. You said everything that needed to be said. Goodbye. But I hung up and blocked the number. Amelia. According to my information, I have competition for Dr. Brown's attention. It seems that the beautiful nurse is also in business. She is attractive, of course, and she has her charms, but I have the advantage. I have not been married, and I have no children. I need to think about this and plan my actions. Jimmy, this woman is becoming a real problem. I don't get paid enough to put up with her constant harassment. She's been told many times that he doesn't want to talk to her, but she doesn't let up. She is persistent. You can't take that away from her. What amazes me most is that she cheated on him and got pregnant by her boyfriend, and now she wants Aaron to forgive everything and return to her. The woman is simply crazy. Crap. Aaron texted me that she somehow found out his number in Ireland and called him. He wants me to get a restraining order so she will leave him alone. I'll try to convince the judge to hand him over. In our state, divorce judges are reluctant to issue such orders unless there is a threat of physical harm. In this case, it will be difficult to prove. I will try. I told my client that I didn't have high hopes of getting an injunction. Laura, it's been a few weeks since I met Aaron Brown, and he's been over for dinner 3 times. On Saturday, he invited Matilda and I for a walk and a picnic, and we had a wonderful time. We went to Killarney National Park, which I've been to many times, and walked some of the trails. Matilda wanted to ride on Aaron's shoulders, so he put her there for a while. We had lunch at the cafe at Ladies View, and after lunch we went to Torque Falls where he wanted to take some photos to send to his parents. That evening, when Matilda was fast asleep, we made love for the first time. I was nervous because he was the first man after my divorce. We spent the night together and woke up together in the morning. I slowly got up to go to the toilet, brush my teeth, and wash my face, and then returned to bed. Aaron just woke up and did the same thing. I heard him wash his face and wash his hands. When he returned to bed, he hugged me again and started kissing me. I know he might have thought I was crazy the way I acted, but I needed him, and I think he needed me. I hope this Amelia Kelly shows her true colors before it's too late. Aaron, Jimmy called me with news of my divorce. It seems that my almost ex-wife can't understand that I no longer want to be married to her. I cannot forgive the fact that she slept with another man and gave birth to his child. Jimmy, what the hell is going on? He hesitated for a second. I wish I knew, Aaron. I tried to get her to sign the documents and complete the process, but to no avail. I think we need to move on to Plan B. Okay, what's Plan B? I will sue on a different basis. I'll explain the situation with the child to the judge and see if this will speed up the process. I can file on a different basis, but it won't work since you were the one who left. In New York State, all it takes is a year to pass, and then divorce is almost automatic. But since you left, the judge may see it differently. What about Plan A, irreconcilable differences? Wasn't this the right option? I thought so, but the judge said that you should go home and go to counseling. I told her that you have a job in another country, and she asked when you plan to return to the US. I said you have no immediate plans for this. Oh, for God's sake. Get me a divorce, no matter how. Just do it, please. Will you come back? No, not while I'm still married to her. I thought I heard Jimmy curse under his breath. Jimmy, do it, okay? I'm working on it. Maddie. I called Aaron's mother and talked to her about where he was. She's not very good at keeping secrets since she gave away that he was in Ireland. All I have to do is find out where exactly, and I'll go to him and sort everything out. I'm sure I can work things out if I can see and talk to Aaron. We had been married for 4 years when I started dating Roger. I admit Roger was a mistake. But I was lonely, and Aaron was always in the hospital. We talked a lot about starting a family. When I told Aaron I was pregnant, he was very happy. He helped me paint and arrange the children's room and collect all the necessary things. He constantly brought something new for the child. He even bought a baseball glove for the baby. He said it didn't matter whether we had a boy or a girl. He's going to teach our child to play baseball. Aaron will realize that leaving was a mistake. He will love this child when he holds her in his arms. I know it. Roger is avoiding me. The last few times I tried to talk to him, he didn't answer, and when I went to school, I saw him run away as soon as he noticed me. I wonder if his wife knows about us. Maybe that's why he's avoiding me. I need to find out where Aaron is in Ireland. Then I'll get on a plane and go to him. Aaron. The hospital in Tralee called, and the chief surgeon said they needed my help for 3 days to deal with the backlog of surgeries. Their orthoptist is sick, and they have had to cancel many surgeries. The doctor will be absent for some time as he undergoes treatment for cancer. It's horrible. They need help, and I'm there. I agreed to come for 3 days and help them sort out the transactions that had accumulated over the past month. In the morning, as I was about to get on my motorbike and ride to Tralee, the hospital called and said they had an emergency. A young man was injured on his motorcycle when he crashed into a car pulling out of his driveway. Apparently, the guy was driving over 80 miles an hour on a side road, and the driver of the car looked both ways before he pulled out. But the guy was going really fast and hit the car. He was badly disfigured and needed a surgeon urgently, or he would lose both his arms. Just as I was about to get on my motorbike and head to Tralee, a police car pulled up, driven by the charming and beautiful constable Amelia Kelly. We received a call from the hospital and need to get you there quickly. The helicopter is unavailable, so get in. I sat down and fastened my seat belt. The police car was an Audi and it quickly took off. Tralee is just 27 kilometers from Castleroy, and we covered the distance in a matter of minutes. The police radio buzzed with incomprehensible gibberish, which Amelia ignored. We arrived at the entrance to the emergency department. Go save a life. Call me when you need to come back. Thank you. I got out of the car and headed to the hospital. I was greeted by a nurse, and we went to the emergency room to see the young man. He was well sedated, and I examined his wounds and began to tell the nurse what I needed. She took notes and left. The emergency room supervisor was happy to see me. We talked for a few minutes, and we went to the operating room so I could get ready to go. This is what I trained for. I met a neurosurgeon and a plastic surgeon while I was washing my hands and putting on my gown and gloves. I needed magnifying glasses, and they were quickly found. The neurosurgeon showed me the young man's driver's license. He was only 18. Crap. Why do children think they are invulnerable? I spent 11 hours essentially reattaching his arms to his forearms. A neurosurgeon attended to his head injuries, and a plastic surgeon worked to reconstruct his face. The guy's head went through the helmet, and his face was torn, all over. When I finished, I was exhausted. I urgently needed to go to the toilet and eat, and also get some rest. This was the most stressful day since. Well, since the day I found out that Maddie was cheating on me and had a child with another man. That day I left. I spoke with the nurse who was managing the surgery schedule and learned the plan for the 8 surgeries they wanted me to perform in the next few days. The plan was 2 operations a day for 4 days. It was a tight schedule, especially since I hadn't operated in over a month. I decided I needed to grit my teeth and get to work. The Irish have been so good to me, so I have to repay them and do this. The nurse told me that I was expected to help out every 2 weeks and make sure they weren't too far behind on the surgeries. I believe I can do this. When I finished, I realized that there was no way for me to return to Castleroy. I called the charming and beautiful Constable Kelly. Half an hour later, a police car with its lights on drove up to the hospital. Her red hair was pulled back into a ponytail. She is beautiful. What should I do? In 4 months. Aaron. I had just finished seeing the last patient of the day and sent Nicole home. Heard the door open and shouted that we were closed for today. I heard footsteps and then a voice. Hello, Aaron. I looked up. Crap, how the hell did she get here? Hi, Maddie. What brings you to Ireland? Of course you are. It took me a while to find you. You look good. I sat down. Thank you. What do you need from me, Maddie? She looked good. Motherhood was clearly good for her. She had a few extra pounds, but they were in the right places. I want you to come home. I was going to let out a lot of anger. I had to be careful not to cross the line and do something stupid. I took a deep breath and exhaled. Why would you do this? I think you don't understand a few important things. What did you think would be the outcome of your affair with that guy from school? Did you think I would just ignore the fact that you had his child? I may be naive, Maddie, but I'm not a fool. You can't cheat and ignore the consequences. I'm not the one to tell you, it's okay, honey. I don't care that you have a child with another man. Get your head out of your ass, Maddie. She decided that the view of the floor had become very interesting and continued to look down. Aaron, you need to come home. I need you, and your daughter needs you. Oh my gosh, are you completely crazy, woman? I don't have a daughter. You and your boyfriend have a daughter. Let him take care of his daughter. Go home. But we've been married for 4 years, and we love each other. I love you, and I know you love me. Please come home. You don't love me. If you did, why did you cheat with that guy? Tell me this. You were never home, and I was lonely, and Roger was there, and we talked a lot. Oh, well, that justifies your cheating then, I guess. When did you get a head injury that made you forget that we shouldn't cheat on each other? Maddie had a hard time answering. Could you just think about it? I miss you so much, and I know you could be a good father. I couldn't believe the nonsense she was spewing. And then they saved me. I heard the door open and Amelia enter. She was wearing skinny jeans and a sleeveless vest. Her hair was down, and she wore a little makeup on her eyes. Amelia is very sexy, and she looked especially good today. When she came in, I walked up to her and kissed her. I stood with my arm around her waist. Amelia, you came on time. Let me introduce you to Maddie. Maddie is somehow Orlamy here in beautiful Ireland, I said with a smile. Amelia stood with her arm around my waist, looking at Maddie like she was looking at mold on a cracker. Amelia looked her up and down. Then she turned to me and said, "How long have you been, Aaron? We're meeting my parents for dinner at 6. No, Maddie is already leaving. We told each other everything we needed to." I looked straight at Maddie. "Isn't that right, Maddie?" Maddie didn't take the hints. "Aaron, we need to have a serious talk about what you're doing." Amelia chimed in, "Well, Maddie, that'll have to wait for another day. Aaron and I have to go, or we'll be late, and my parents are very punctual. I'm sure you understand now." Amelia gave Maddie a disdainful look. If this had happened in a pub, the guys would have gathered around, expecting a fight between the two women. In Ireland, you could sell tickets for this. I had no intention of giving Maddie any hope that I was stupid enough to listen to her bullshit. She could talk until the second coming, and it wouldn't change anything. Eventually, she had a sexual relationship with another man, which led to the birth of her child. My sympathies were with the child. She didn't choose her parents. She deserves a better mother than the one she has. I knew that my diligent lawyer was in court and the final certificate of divorce was close to being issued. Maddie was making a last-ditch effort to avoid raising a child alone and facing the role of a single mother. She should have thought about that before she started sleeping with that guy and getting pregnant. Jimmy told me about all the court hearings and applications filed, and the judge accepted that the child was not mine. The judge asked who the child's father was, and Maddie's lawyer simply said that they agreed that I was not the father. According to Jimmy, the judge made a face that said a lot. Ultimately, Maddie would be left with the house and our bank accounts instead of money from me, and since there were no children in our marriage, there would be no further commitment on my part. I knew Maddie would receive a little over $90,000 after the sale of the house and from our small savings account, but I considered it money spent on a life lesson for me. Now I was in no hurry to look for a replacement. I planned to spend a few more months here in Ireland, being the local doctor, helping with surgeries and thinking about what I wanted. But life doesn't always go according to plan. Maddie. Well, it didn't work out the way I wanted. That red-haired girl interrupted me. I left the baby with my mom and dad at home and decided that if I came here and showed Aaron what he was missing, maybe he would come home and we could try to be a family. I tried really hard to lose the pounds after pregnancy and get back in shape. I'm fitting into size 6 jeans again and bought some perfume that Aaron really loves. But this bitch showed up and I know she had Chanel on. I smelled it. She should think twice if she thinks I'll leave without a fight. The hotel I stayed in is tiny. I can barely walk between the bed and the table, and the TV is so old that it has a kinescope. How do these people live like this? I need to find something to eat and call my mom. She said to check every day. She was unhappy about taking the child. She said her friends started asking a lot of questions, mostly those who didn't know I had adopted a child. I don't think she corrects them. Aaron. Damn it. This stunned woman actually came here to Ireland. How did she find me? I roughly know. One of my chatty relatives accidentally told her. She should listen more carefully to her lawyer. The divorce is almost finalized. There is no turning back. We're done, done, done. I was really happy to see Amelia when I did. She probably made up the part about meeting her parents, at least I think so. I took her to dinner anyway, and I still brought her to my modest apartment after that, and I made her breakfast the next morning. Maddie, last night I walked around the village after dinner. There's not much here. I can't figure out why Aaron likes it here. They call restaurants pubs. I learned that it is short for public house. I learned that Aaron only sees patients 3 days a week. The people in the pub knew everything about him and were willing to tell me almost everything they knew. I returned to my hotel, a small hotel run by Mary and Bill. She offered tea, and we talked about the doctor and how they really considered him a local hero. They told me all about how Aaron saved the policeman and about the traffic accident when he helped the tourists. Mary asked where I was from, and when I said Albany, she looked at me with wide eyes and did the math. She realized that I was Aaron's wife. She quickly said that she had something to do in the kitchen and left. I heard her and Bill talking in low voices. The next morning, I went to Erin's clinic and was greeted by a teenage girl at the front desk. I said I came to see Erin. She looked at me and seemed to understand who I was. News travels fast in a small town. They told me he won't come today. Today is surgery day at Tralee Hospital, wherever that may be. I asked when he would be there. The girl looked at the notebook on the table and said that the doctor was busy all this week. Maybe I could come on Monday. My God, these people. I walked around a little more and bought a terrible cup of coffee. The weather was good when I left the hotel, but now it was lightly raining, and this town seemed incredibly small. I didn't know where to go to wait for him. I didn't know where he lived. Perhaps he lived with the red-haired woman I saw yesterday. You need to ask and find out. Mayor of Castleroy. The police called me and said that an American woman had appeared in the city and was asking about Dr. Brown. She stayed with Mary and Bill at their boarding house. It doesn't take Inspector Clauso to figure out that it's the estranged Mrs. Brown trying to bring our doctor back to Albany. I had to put an end to this quickly. A short conversation with Mary revealed that this woman, Madeline Brown, had gone to the clinic to see him. I knew that today he was in Tralee carrying out operations on hips and knees from a backlog of patients. No, I had to force it. Mrs. Brown should go home and leave young Erin alone. Luckily, I have Constable Amelia Kelly on my team. Amelia is a true beauty who could attract any man with just a glance and a wave of her finger. She is probably the most beautiful woman in the region and certainly in Castleroy. I know her career as a police officer will soon be over as she has enrolled in law school at Trinity College, Dublin. Her father graduated from there, and she will undoubtedly be successful there. I spoke with Mary and Bill, and it turned out that the boarding house urgently needed to be closed due to violations of sanitary standards. There was nothing left to do but tell the only guest that she needed to leave immediately. Her things were packed and ready to go. Bill apologized, returned all the money, and said that he had booked for her a room in the nearest hotel, which turned out to be in Killarney. To say that she was terribly unhappy with Bill was an understatement, but we all had to sacrifice so that there would be a doctor in our city. Bill understood this perfectly. Maddie, damn, the hotel just kicked me out with some bullshit story about being closed due to a public health inspection. And now I have to go to some place called Killarney, wherever it may be, and it's raining heavily. I hate Ireland, and my mother calls me and wants to know when I'm coming home. Crap, I just received a letter on my mobile phone from school reminding me that my maternity leave ends in a week, and I have to go to work. Crap, Amelia. Here's the thing. I really wanted Erin to meet my mom and dad. He's probably the best guy I've ever dated. He has principles from which he does not deviate. Even if someone asks him to do so, even his errant wife. It means something. My problem is that I will have to leave him soon as I am moving to Dublin in August. Law school is starting, and I need to get there, find a place to live, and be ready to start studying. My other problem is that when I come to Dublin, I am not ready to lead a celibate lifestyle. I love sex, I really do. So it would be unfair to him to say that I want to continue the relationship and sleep with other men, knowing that he will not date other women. It would be wrong, so I have to stop this. The sooner the better, probably. Erin. I learned important information through the Castleroy gossip grid. I call her KSS. I know Amelia won't last long. I know her goal is to go to law school, and the gossip network has informed me through Nicole that she has been accepted to start law school in August. I know that she is a very outgoing woman, and I know that I am not the one she needs in the long run. I know that if I was with her, I would just wait for the day when I find out that she is sleeping with another guy, and I know that would be the end of me. For my own salvation, I need to remember that our relationship is short and it is only for pleasure. When she's ready, she'll tell me, and that'll be the end of it. I'm definitely not going to say something stupid to her and use the word love and promise my eternal love. No. Besides, there is a person or people with whom I would like to get to know much better than I do now. In 4 months. Erin. The doctor the Department of Health promised to send to replace me is not getting any closer. I didn't hear the name, so I called the hospital administrator in Tralee and spoke to them. They said they would get back to me. This was a few weeks ago, but no word yet. Amelia is in Dublin at law school, and we parted on very friendly terms. We both knew that our relationship would not turn into something permanent. We both knew we were just friends with benefits. But these were great perks. Laura, several months have passed since Amelia Kelly left to study in Dublin. I was busy with work and Matilda, so my personal life was in the background, as they say. So I was surprised when I received a call from Aaron inviting me to go to Killarney Fair with him over the weekend. I thought that since Amelia was out of the game, the good doctor was feeling lonely and wanted female company. Well, he's lucky. I needed male company. I have needs too. When I told Matilda, she was very excited about going to the fair. She ran to her room to get her clothes ready, even though it was only Wednesday evening, and we didn't get ready until Saturday afternoon. When Saturday came, I had completely forgotten that Aaron had a motorbike, so I expected him to come, and we would go to Killarney in my car. To my surprise, he showed up in a car, Audi sedan. It turns out that the mayor of Castleroy has arranged a short-term rental for him at a very low price. He only needed to pay for insurance and fill up. This meant that he could travel to Tralee each week for his surgical duty much more comfortably than enduring our fickle Irish weather on a motorbike. Matilda sat in the back seat and fastened her seat belt, but I made her get out to install her child's seat in the car. She controlled Aaron as he secured it. The fair was a lot of fun. Matilda was eager to go on rides and wanted cotton candy and all the junk food I allowed. She walked around the fair holding Aaron's hand the entire time. I looked at his face to see how he felt about his role. I think he liked it. After the fair, we went out to eat some normal food and then went back to my house. I invited Aaron to come over. Matilda changed into her pajamas, brushed her teeth without being told, and returned to the kitchen, taking Aaron's hand and pulling him into her room. He was assigned to read a bedtime story. Half an hour later, he returned. She's sleeping soundly. The food and fresh air have done the trick. I smiled at him. You've earned your drink, she said, handing her a glass of wine. How are you coping? I do not understand the question. With what? You spend your days caring for numerous patients and your evenings and weekends caring for your very active daughter. I just do it. I don't think about it. I can't remember my life before Matilda. She is the most important part of my life. Everything else is secondary. He took a sip of wine. How could your ex-husband abandon her? I don't understand. Some men are not cut out to be husbands and fathers. He's one of those. If she were mine, I couldn't imagine this. I don't think about it. Matilda is everything to me. I took a sip. That doesn't mean I don't want more. I looked at him carefully. What do you want? We talked until late at night. He told me what it was like to be betrayed by his ex-wife, what it was like to see that her child was clearly from another man, how he felt deceived, as used. She cheated for a long time and hid it well. He said that if she had honestly told him that she didn't want to be married to him, he would have divorced her, and she could have lived the life she wanted, and so could he. Aaron was now divorced, and this gave him a sense of freedom that he was just getting used to. His life became new. His eyes opened, and he was going to make sure history doesn't repeat itself. He will be very sure of what he wants and who he wants to have it with. I knew that there was a little girl who was already looking at him as a new dad. So far, everything was going well. Jimmy, listen, your divorce has been officially finalized for a while now. I sent you the original divorce certificate, and I have a copy in my files in case you ever need it. You are now a free man in Ireland, and you can get yourself into trouble. Into any trouble you want. Jimmy, I can't express how grateful I am to you. Just pay my bill when you get it. I was worried when Maddie showed up here in Ireland. What the hell was she trying to achieve by coming here? Her family is very angry with her and told her to deal with her problems. She decided that she would give you one last chance. When you rejected her, she returned home and is now playing the role of a struggling single mother. What about the guy who is the father of her child? Oh, he's got enough problems with his wife and kids, and he's completely ignoring Maddie. He's scared to death that she'll ask him for child support. Mind you, he doesn't have anything to give her. That's funny. What are you doing? Are you planning to return home, or are you planning to become a full Irish citizen? I don't know. I have to admit, it's different here, but I really like it. I met a wonderful woman who I think can make me very happy. She has a daughter. What the hell? Yes, she's a nurse trainee and has a 4-year-old daughter. She's smart and beautiful and a great mother. But the child is not yours. No, but she didn't cheat on me or lie to me. There's a big difference between her and Maddie. Maddie betrayed me, cheated, and lied. It ruined our relationship. When her baby was born and I saw that I wasn't the father, everything hit me. Like a truck. I knew at that moment that my marriage with her was over. That's why I had to leave and leave Albany. Well, you've achieved it, my friend. Thank you for everything you've done for me. 2 years later. Aaron, come on. Oh shit, I'll take the bag. I ran to the closet by the front door and pulled out the bag we had packed, getting ready to go to the hospital. I called the hospital and warned them that we were leaving. My mom and dad were there and fussed over us as we walked out the door. Matilda stood next to us and hugged us both. Bring me brother. I laughed as I put Laura in the car. The police gave us an escort all the way to the hospital in Tralee. 9 hours later, our baby was born. I made a mental note that next time it might be the brother Matilda dreams of. My parents arrived at the hospital with Matilda later, and everyone saw the child. Annabelle Marie Brown barely noticed all the attention she was receiving and simply held my finger while I held her. Laura, that's right, the last words are mine. I was very lucky to find a man who wants to be a family man, and he is happy to take responsibility for his wife and child from the very beginning. Aaron is mine, but I have to share him with Matilda and now Annabelle, and maybe one more. I can't understand women who don't know when they're lucky. Aaron's ex-wife was stupid, and her stupidity became my happiness. She ruined everything and lost him because of it. When he found me and I found him, we were two people looking for each other. It was pure chance that we found each other, but I'm so glad it happened. And I know Aaron feels the same way. Now we are family, and if anyone gets in our way, they will have to deal with me. I am an Irish wife and mother, and I will not tolerate other women making eyes at my husband, including you, Amelia Kelly. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even click to the next one.